Hello.
So,
Today we will talk about high altitude sickness. What is the altitude sickness?
so altitude sickness, it it's it's basically where there's a lack of oxygen in the brain, in the blood. So they say that it starts to affect most people around at 2,300 to 2,400 meters above sea level. So, if you've been to the Blue Mountains, Katoomba, that's nowhere near that sort of height. So um, when you get beyond 2,300 meters, you can experience symptoms of altitude sickness, and the higher you get, generally speaking, the worse that those symptoms can get. So to give you a bit of an example, Machu Picchu is at 2,400 meters. Cusco, which is the town that you fly into to get to Machu Picchu, is 3,400 meters, and it can reach 3,500 at certain points. So it's some serious height. Now, to put that into perspective, Everest Base Camp is like 5,000 meters. So while it's a fair bit more, it's for those who, people who go to Everest, they're experienced trekkers and whatnot. A lot of people who come to Machu Picchu and Cusco, they come here to see the mountains and come here to see the actual ruins and whatnot. So yeah, not ruins, but yeah.
Yep. What are the symptoms?
Okay, so there's different stages. And first, for the record, before I was coming to Cusco, I was petrified. I've got sort of a bit of anxiety as it is around those sorts of things. But when it came to reading some of the reviews on Google and whatnot, it got me pretty panicked. But as for symptoms, so I'll get to how we prevented it, because I didn't experience, and my partner and I didn't experience too much, a little bit. But it starts off, I'll start off as the best case and worst case. So best case is no symptoms. Then it travels up from mild headache, lethargy or being lethargic, like you just run a marathon. Nausea, loss of appetite, medium headache, vomiting, severe headache, cerebral edema, coma, death, right? But the chance of getting the latter points is extremely slim.
Yeah. What is the medical like in Cusco?
Well, I haven't needed to check what the medical was like, but I did a shitload of research before. So there's plenty of hospitals and a lot of private clinics. Now, one thing I was warned about from many different sources was that the private clinics can try and rip you off. So as an example, you might present there with mild altitude sickness to get some help or whatnot, and they might say yes, you've got to come in, you've got to stay overnight in the hospital, and we'll charge you $400 a night and whatever. So yeah, just got to be wary of that. But there are plenty of clinics around, plenty of chemists around, and another interesting point is that all the hotels in Cusco, by law, must carry oxygen. So I haven't needed to have oxygen, but I was sort of panicking that I would. And apparently having the oxygen for 5 or 6 minutes, it really does help, but it's only temporary. So the idea is if you start getting really bad altitude sickness, you've really got little choice. If it gets severe enough, then you have to descend. However, after 2 to 3 days, your body generally acclimatizes to it. So we've only been here for 3 days. I felt pretty average on the first day. Second day, a bit better, and today a lot better. However, as mentioned before, we're a lot further south, being at 2,400 meters, refreshing air, rather than 3,500, which is where we're at Cusco.
How can you help prevent it?
So there's a lot of sort of traditional old school remedies, I suppose, such as having coca leaves. Now, coca leaves won't actually stop the altitude sickness coming. It's mainly to help with the stomach, to settle your stomach. So coca leaves is part of, it's what basically the base chemical or the base ingredient in making cocaine. And most people who know or who've had cocaine or have had tooth pulled out, which is used Novocaine or Lanocaine, it's basically an anaesthetic, so it numbs things. So the idea is it'll numb the stomach a little bit and help with digestion and whatnot. However, our hotel people who told us that it's a little bit of a gimmick. They said it doesn't really help all that much, and that it's full of caffeine, as well as if you're if you have to go home and have blood tests for drugs, drug tests for whatever reason, whatever industry you might be in, there's a good chance it might pick up that you've had cocaine when you actually haven't had cocaine. And a couple of things, so as I mentioned, the oxygen is another one which helps. We've been having munya tea, which has been, I guess, hard to know whether it helped, because we took a lot of precautions on this trip. So I mean, I can only imagine that it could have gotten a whole lot worse haven't we taken all these precautions. But the munya tea is a mix of different ingredients. I think there's chamomile, Peruvian mint, and another one I can't quite recall what it was. I think valerian root as well. But it's a bit of a mixed ingredient. Helps you relax. A lot of the part about altitude sickness is you want to keep your heart rate as low as possible, and if you've got anxiety, if you're stressing about it, that increases your heart rate. You use more oxygen. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, in addition, which we took, is a drug called Diamox. Now, Diamox is used, I believe, primarily for epileptics. However, it can be used for altitude sickness, or to prevent altitude sickness. And apparently they use this, a lot of the climbers use this on Everest and whatnot. They also use dexamethasone if they do get altitude sickness, but that's a whole nother story. But we've been taking half a tablet every 8 hours for the past 3 days, and I reckon it has helped. I mean, there's been a lot of studies behind it that says it does help, but it doesn't help for everybody. But me personally, it's been pretty good. I mean, when we arrived in Cusco, as I mentioned, I was nervous as all hell, thinking I'm not going to breathe, I'm going to have a heart attack. I've heard of reports of people dying in this place because they've been too high up. Getting off the airport, getting off the plane, I was thinking, oh shit, how's it going to be? And I breathed in and out. I'm like, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. After a couple of hours, I was feeling okay. We rested a bit, and then the headache kicked in. But I do get headaches quite regularly, so it wasn't anything too uncomfortable. But it was sort of like a pressure headache, and it was lingering, and then it sort of started to try and turn into a migraine, but it didn't quite get there. Looking at light was a bit difficult. I didn't feel sick in the stomach at all, which is good. I hate feeling sick in the stomach. But normally when we go to a new destination, we get off the airport, check in the hotel, and go run around and do stuff all day and all night, and then go to bed. That didn't happen with this. So we got back to the hotel at like midday, checked in, had a very light lunch, it's another good thing to do is, actually I'll get to that in a sec. And then went to sort of lay down, watched a movie, and we watched like 5 movies that afternoon because we were in bed. We were floored completely for the whole day, and we slept on and off until about 10 o'clock the next morning. But that's when we sort of woke up and sort of had a bit more spring in us, had a shower, had breakfast, and we're like, you know what, I feel a bit better than what I did yesterday. And that's when it sort of all went uphill from there. Another good few tips, I suppose, to help is eat light. Don't have anything too horrific by the way of digesting. So I'd avoid having red meat on the first day because it does take a long time to digest. Have carbs, not simple carbs, so not like refined sugars and Twixes and that sort of crap. Pasta is a good one. Whole grain stuff if possible, and take it easy. It's very, very humbling when you walk a flight of stairs and and you're out of breath and you're tired. It's a very humbling experience. So the thing is, if you're at home at your altitude, normal altitude, and you run a race or walk 50 feet or whatever, you might be tired for a minute and then it's like okay. But here you get puffed out. You can be like that for half an hour. So you want to avoid doing anything that's going to have too strenuous on your body. Within reason, of course. I'm not saying don't leave the hotel room. I'm just saying, for the first day, be careful, right?
Mm-hmm. Don't walk to outside much. Just relax as hotel.
Yes, I think that's a wise move. And that's I think it's what helped us too. And we got to explore the next day, which was good. So. Another thing which we probably should have done in hindsight, although the fact that we didn't get too sick, I guess, doesn't make much difference, I suppose. But a lot of people, from what I've heard, when they fly into Cusco, they don't go straight down. They don't go straight. Sorry, they don't stay in Cusco because of the high altitude. So what they'll do is they'll go to the Sacred Valley, or Ollantaytambo, I think it's called, which is at 2,700 meters. Now, it's still a fair few, 700 meters, 800 meters, give or take. So it does apparently help. Now, we sort of went through Ollantaytambo, and there really wasn't a whole lot to do there. So if you're there, if you're only in sort of doing Machu Picchu and whatnot for a few days, I'd probably maybe give it a miss. But if you're doing it for a week and you've got a bit of time up your sleeve, then maybe you could consider going to fly into Cusco, get a taxi or an airport shuttle, whatever, go down to the Sacred Valley, spend a couple of nights there, then you go to Machu Picchu, you go down to Machu Picchu, and then from there you can go to Cusco. So the idea behind that is, if you're at 2,700 meters, it lets your body acclimatise. So, I mean, as you can, there's hundreds of thousands, if not, I'm not sure if there's millions, but there's a lot of locals here. So if they can do it, everyone can do it. It just takes time to adjust. And with us, what was making me quite nervous is that we've only got 3 days. And I was thinking, well, if it takes 2 or 3 days to adjust, how are we going to do this? Hence the Diamox came into the equation. So, yeah.
Should be you scared?
No, definitely not.
Just relax.
Just relax, take it easy. Be cautious. Don't do anything crazy. I mean, maybe get some Diamox pills take them. Or I'm not a pharmacist, so I shouldn't be advising anyone to take any drugs. But definitely nothing to be scared about. I was petrified coming here. I was really nervous. I had a bit of a panic attack at the airport in Lima to come here, and I was at one point considering not coming because I was freaking out. I was watching all these horror stories on Google, and this man died because of this, and this lady died from that, and I was like, holy shit, what am I doing? But you know what? Best thing I ever did. So yeah, don't be scared. And the symptoms, by and large, are pretty mild. From what I've seen, when people at our hotel, I haven't seen anybody retching or throwing up or holding their head like they're in serious pain. I mean, it does affect everyone differently, but yeah, take a few precautions, you'll be right.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.